Don't pay a debt collector if they have violated the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. I know that that's easier said than done, but I'm going to go over in this video a list of violations that debt collectors could have potentially made pertaining to a debt collection that they're coming after you for. And these are Fair Debt Collection Practices Act violations. I know when you read the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, it some of it looks like, okay, some of the stuff doesn't look like it could be a violation, like they would never violate. So what I've done here is I got a list of what we go through working with our clients, and I'm going to give this over to you. Look at this list. As a matter of fact, it's really about 10 pages, but I just broke it down to make it easier for you to absorb in this video. I'm going to make other videos that's going to go into more violations. And here's the thing that I've learned with dealing with debt collectors is, a debt collector, unless they're just one of these rotten debt collectors that are just opening up to just take money from people as much as they can, and then they're going to shut down. These debt collectors are smart. They're gonna skirt the laws. They're gonna do things that that could seem like it's legal for them to do, but it's really not legal for them to do. But if you look at the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, you might think, well, it's a gray area. Well, I'm going to show you how to use those gray areas to your advantage when dealing with debt collectors who are trying to come after you for a debt that they purchased. Now, I want you to like this video because I'm going to come through. This video is going to be very strong. It's going to be very informative. It's going to give you ammunition that you can use to fight back against debt collectors. Also up front, my channel is not about trying to run away from debt. If you feel that just dealing with the debt collector and coming up with a settlement and so you can move forward, I'm all for that. This is mainly pertaining to debt collections that you just feel that because they've purchased it for pennies on the dollar, if you want to fight it, because you do have a right to fight it, to make them prove everything about that debt. And you also have the right to make them follow the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act when they're coming after you for the debt. Now, also because of something that happened with the Supreme Court, with a decision that they made, which is, I don't even know how they're going to fix this, but they need to fix it. Because when a debt collector buys your debt, and they do not collect debt for other companies, they only buy debt and collect it for themselves, they actually become in a sense, becomes the original creditor. And some of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act rules do not apply to them, which is crazy. I'm going to take a quick drink of water here. Which is crazy. You can look at that. Look up Supreme Court decision, Justice Gorsuch. I think it was, I forget the name, but it was versus Santander Consumer Financial, where Santander purchased debt and they didn't collect debt for others. So they assume, even though they purchased that debt, they actually assume the original creditor's position, which doesn't make them fall under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act the way that a debt collector would. So the first thing that you need to find out with the debt collector that is coming after you for a debt is, do they collect debt for other companies? You can easily find that out by going to their website, and you can see if they only buy debt, buy portfolios, they'll utilize that word, or do they collect for other companies? And you'll see they'll advertise saying, hey, we collect debt for medical or whatever. So if they fall into that category, they're under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Any attorney who collects debt for other companies falls under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So let's go through this short list here of what debt collectors can and cannot do. And if they violate any of these, what you would do is you would simply put together a letter and you would notify them that they're in violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and that you want them to cease all collection activities. So the first one that I want to talk about is if they call you before they send a demand letter. They have to send a demand letter. A lot of people don't know this, but they have to send a demand letter. And you might be saying, well, I moved and they called me and they didn't have my address. And this is actually something that happened to a client today. They said that a debt collector called them and they said, you owe this debt. The client knew that they had a debt with the original creditor, but the debt collector said, what is your current address? And he was like, I did not tell them my current address. I'm not going to tell them that. And that was the right thing to do at that time. But if you want to deal with the debt, what you can do is you call them back, and you could say, I'm not saying I owe this debt, but because you don't have my address, you can send it, or you can wait for them to call you back, because they will call you, and you can say, send it to my address. As soon as you get that letter, you can state that they are in violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act because they did not send you that demand letter before calling, and you will see that debt will go away because they have to send you that. Now, why are they calling and they're not sending that letter and not spending the resources to go and get the information about where your new address is? It's because the debt might not justify that. They're going to do this on those smaller amount debts. They're not going to try to spend resources other than phone calls from their rep to go after debt that's not going to really pay off for them, even if they get it for pennies on the dollar. It could take upwards of $500 in resources to collect on a debt, so they're not going to go after a debt that's $500 and spend the resources and break even on it. They're not in the business of breaking even, they're in the business of making money. So you're going to have some debts that you might have that are smaller amounts, or you're going to get his phone calls, and then if they get your new address somehow by skip tracing your credit reports and doing things like that, then you'll get that letter. But if they call you first and you get that letter, you can state with your response letter that they are in violation because they called you first. Now, the next thing is communicating with you by postcard. They cannot disclose your financial circumstances, information on a postcard by saying, this is such and such collection agency and we're trying to get in touch with you about a debt that you owe. They cannot put that on a postcard. They are in violation if they put that on a postcard. Even if they send you that letter and they have a company like such and such collection services or We Buy Debt Collection Services, they cannot do that. That's why they were changing their name to LVNB Funding and Portfolio Recovery and Resurgent Capital. These companies used to go around and they used to have collection, because when they sent that letter out, it would get people's attention and make them open that letter because it said collection. They can't even put on there. They remember in the old days, they used to put on there, have the word collection or final notice. They used to put that on there. The debt collection companies cannot do stuff like that. If they send you any letters like that, they are in violation. Also, when you open that letter, so you get that letter, they open it. If they have a different font size, let's just say you got the letter and they put over here in the corner, they have to identify the original creditor. They have to tell you that. They also have to identify themselves. They have to say that they are the new owner of the debt. You know, they tell their whole story about how they came into contact with the debt. They'll put their file number. They'll put the account number that you used to have, and then they'll have their little demand in the middle here. And then below there, they'll say that you have the right to dispute the debt. They have to notify you that you have a right to dispute that debt. If they don't put that in there, they're in violation. But also, here's another one that they try to get away with. The font size. If you don't know what a font is, that's the letters and the numbers. The size of it has to be the same. They cannot do like on those contracts when they make a sign, They can't have everything in big letters about what the debt is about and then put in small letters, smaller font size, smaller letters stating that you had a right to dispute that debt. That's a violation. They have to have that the same, and you can utilize that information to submit to them to say that they're trying to mislead you on what you could do about that debt. And don't worry, I'm going to give you a way to either contact us to have it done for you or give you some letters that you could do it with. The next thing is communicating with relatives, friends, co-workers. They cannot do that, but you need to check your state laws on why they can't do it. In my state of Wisconsin, they actually updated the debt collection services law, and they cannot call anyone who is not a co-borrower. So if they are not signed on that contract with you, they cannot call them at all. They just changed the rule here, and they might have that changed in your state. So that means no family, no friends, none of that stuff. Now, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act state that they can call your references and say, we're trying to get in touch, but they're not allowed to reveal why they're trying to get in touch. But they can say, do you have their new address? Do you have this, their new number? They can ask that with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act federal. But in the state of Wisconsin, and maybe in your state, they can't even call those people unless they're on the contract. So, but you have to be careful because some state laws cannot supersede federal laws. Some federal laws cannot supersede state laws. So you're going to have to see which one is which. But the way that I play the game is that if it's written in your state, you can utilize that because you can stop them from being able to collect in your state. So even if federal law supersedes something that's in your state law, a debt collector must be registered to collect debt in your state, so you can actually use your state laws to have their license withdrawn because they're actually breaking state law. Yeah, they're not breaking federal law. They can use that and say, hey, we're not breaking federal law, but the state still has the right to have their regulations. And they can say, hey, if you're not going to follow our regulations in our state, then you can't collect debt from people in our state. And that's the way that it's written here in the state of Wisconsin. Now, if they call you for a debt, if you've been watching my videos, and please like this video right now, I'm just going to throw that in there, and subscribe to my channel. If they call you and the debt is past the legal statute of limitations, now you may not know this when they make that call to you. And also when they send that letter to you, you may not know it. But if you look it up and the debt is past the legal statute of limitations, and they did not put the word that we are trying to contact you about a debt that is time barred, that they don't have to say statute of limitations, they have to say time barred debt. Or on the letter, they have to say time barred debt. If they call you on the phone, they have to say time barred debt. If they do not, so when you go back and you check and you say, hey, this debt is past the legal statute of limitations to collect or time barred period of time to collect, and they did not state that when they contacted you, they are in violation. The next one is they have to give you the opportunity to dispute. I kind of went with that on the letter, but if they contact you and they don't send a letter, you still had a right to dispute it. You could ask them, you could say, hey, I'm disputing this with you on the phone, and I want you to send me everything that you have about this debt, privacy, everything. You might only be able to get out a certain amount, but when they send it to you, then you can use the letter that I'm going to give you to dispute it completely. All of the things that you can ask questions about. The next thing is that they must record your dispute. So if you dispute a debt with a debt collector and they have placed that information on your credit reports, they have to put it on there that you're disputing that debt on your credit reports. They have to do that immediately. If you dispute it, they must respond to you within 5 days of that dispute. But in practice, they give them 10 to 15 days to gather that information and submit that back over to you. The next thing is They cannot threaten you with arrest. They cannot threaten to ruin your credit. They cannot threaten your relationships. They cannot tell your boss that you owe. They cannot threaten to ruin your reputation. And they cannot threaten to sue you if they're not going to sue you. Now, that's another one of those gray areas. What I've always told people to do is if you get a call from a debt collector saying that we're going to sue you, and they do not sue you, they are in violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. They're making a threat that they're not willing to follow through on. And that is in the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So you have to pay attention to what they're saying. See, they try to get you emotional. If you get emotional, you know how it is. You don't really remember everything. What I would tell you to do is, they talk smartphone, press record on your phone or on your computer and record the conversation. And if you forget to do that, request the recording of the conversation. You might have to subpoena it. But if you know that they violated, you request that information from that debt collector. They might just say, hey, we know we violated and we're not going to come after you for the debt. And then whatever you want to do after that, you could do that. You can do what you want to do. But usually 30 days, if they don't sue you and they threaten to sue you and it goes past 30 days, and I know that this is a gray area. I know that this could be scary because you're like, if they threaten to sue and they don't sue me, and I call them on not suing me, then they're going to sue me. Well, that's the risk that you have to take. No risk, no reward. No risk, no reward. There is not playing it safe and playing it to win do not exist in the same game. Playing it safe and playing to win is two different things. If you're going to play it safe, you can leave it alone. If you're going to play to win, that's what you got to do. The next thing is, and this is what they try to do with those cases, is that the next thing that they try to do, that's why what I'm about to tell you right now, you will know that we are in the game, that we are not someone that's sitting on the bench just making videos and throwing them out there to get subscribers and to get people emotional, but that doesn't do any of the work. What I'm about to tell you right now is a strategy that debt collectors have been using, and they still use it to this day to get people emotional and to scare them into trying to pay or to just scare them. Is that debt collectors will, and this happened because of COVID. This is one of those things that happened during COVID, and they are getting away with it, but when I mention it, you're going to know that my company is not on the sideline, that we are in the game fighting for people or fighting with people. So right now, if you haven't done it yet, like this video, because I'm about to tell you something that you probably have not heard unless you've watched one of my videos that I've mentioned it in, or my videos that I've mentioned it in, because I have mentioned it in the past, is that what they'll do to scare you is that they will upload the lawsuit. Because during COVID, we were all trapped in our houses and trapped and closed up in the offices. They will upload it, and the courts were allowing debt collectors to upload it, but until they paid the fee, they did not have it officially filed. They could even get a partial, or it depends on the area, but some of them would actually get a case number, and some of them would get like a temporary number, a file number. It's different in every area. And they would send that to the debtor to scare them that they filed a case. And when we would do our homework, we would find that the cases were not filed. They were only uploaded. That is a violation, because what they're doing is they're threatening you with something that hasn't even happened. And you might be saying again, well, if I tell them that they violated, then they're going to go ahead and pay the money and do it. Well, you cannot win if you're not willing to lose. You cannot win unless you're willing to lose. That's just the way it is. That's what I've learned my entire life. And some of the times you're going to lose, and other times you're going to win. But I can tell you, if you're playing to win, you're going to win way more times than you lose. And when you lose, you're going to learn a lesson, and you're going to get back tenfold from what you lost on if you always plan to win. The next thing that I want you to look at is emailing. When they email you, because now with the updated CFPB, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, what they're doing is they allow them to email and allow them to text you. They cannot use your company email unless, this is the caveat, unless that is a known email for you, which I don't know how they do this, but a known public email that you use for private and for your job. That's the only way that they can do it. But if you use your job email only for work, they cannot contact you using that email. Now, you might be saying, well, how do they find that email? They find that email from social media. They find it from LinkedIn. They find it on the websites. Like you can go to the websites, and some companies list the different departments and the names of and emails of people in those departments. That's how they find it. With texting, they cannot text a company phone unless you also utilize that phone for private use. This little gray area is what debt collectors lobbied on to have that put in, because they're like, hey, what if this person is utilizing this phone for personal and for business? And so they had that thrown in there. But if you work for somebody and you don't use your company email for nothing but work, and I'm not talking about where you accidentally send it out to someone, to your wife or your spouse. I'm talking about you really do use that officially for company business. They cannot contact you on there. Same with the phone. They cannot. All right, now, that's a long list of stuff. There's even more violations, but that's a long list. If you have a debt collector coming after you, I'm going to give you two options. I have a 3-pack of letters, statute of limitations letter that will stop any debt collector that's coming after you for a time-barred debt or debt that's past the legal statute of limitations to collect. You do not need to do a debt validation with that letter. You just need to give that, notify them with that, and I would do it certified mail, and they will stop coming after you for that debt. If you have any violations, we will help write that response for you. It depends on the violation. These letters have to be crafted a certain way. If you don't believe that you can craft it based off the violation that you believe, you can contact us. We only charge $59.95 to craft that letter with those violations, and it'll also include debt validation, but we're going to also talk about the violations that we believe, and we're going to have the cease and desist collection activities letter with that. Now, if you want to do this yourself, craft that letter, and then I'm also giving you a cease and desist collection activities letter that will ask them certain questions and properly do a debt validation, privacy, attorney who's handling it, or find out everything. And that letter can usually stop a debt collector in their tracks, unless it's a high amount where they're going to believe that, hey, we could just go after this debt because the payoff is a lot more for them. But that cease and desist collection activities letter will stop a lot of debt collectors in their track. And then I give you a debt validation letter to go back and forth with them, just in case they try to send you a few documents. That is absolutely free for those 3 letters. I do ask for a donation. That's up to you. If you feel that it's worth it, it can save you time, money, frustration. The link below, or you can go to my website to see the letter. If you want us to craft it for you, it's only $59.95 to get that to a debt collector. It's sent certified mail. We give you a copy so you can know that they received it. And usually it could stop debt collectors from coming after you. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch video What Makes Us Different so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit report scores, go to the website your3scores.com. Grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. Thank you for your time. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, The Credit Repair Shop, and